Today we're going to work on my 2002 year SAAB 93 convertible, and we want to change the cabin air filter for today's video. So let's go ahead. Before we start to just take a couple of tools and start to tear things apart from the inside, I need to tell that the cabin air filter is not located behind the glove box compartment like most car brands do nowadays. On the SAAB, especially the first generation SAAB 93, they are placed on the outside, just behind a couple of trim parts behind the windshield wiper arms. And it only takes maybe an hour's time of your life if you're unlucky, but at best half an hour. One of the tools you need for today is a flathead screwdriver for taking off the plastic trims located there and behind the bonnet right there. Take the flat part of the flathead screwdriver, place it underneath here, then you carefully pull upwards. It probably will fly away, but don't worry. As you see, there's the bolt we're gonna have to take off for today. When it comes to the driver's side, you actually have to lift up the bonnet to get access to it. And just to give a better, clearer perspective, I just take the flathead part underneath here, and I carefully try not to scratch the car and lift up, placing my thumb over so it won't fly far away. Then, just for the keepsake, I place these in the inside of the car, especially in the wells of the door panels. On the windshield wiper arms is a 13mm, so take the 30mm and the smallest wrench you got, carefully place it upon, make sure you do the right way, and then you start unscrewing. These are locked in with Loctite, red Loctite specifically, so if you haven't done it before, you have to use some real force. Just be careful to not ruin it. Take it slow, take your time, don't stress this. After all, when you loosen it, I just carefully take the pipe itself, the 30mm, and I unscrew. There it is, 13mm bolt. When it comes to the windshield wiper arm that's closest to the passenger side, I just lean over from the car on the passenger side. And then, as I said, place the 13mm on the nut and then loosen. Mine are a bit more loose than they usually are, since I have already unscrewed them a couple of times before. But I don't want to use a lot of force, because these are fine bolts that the nuts are on. So just carefully unscrew, loosening the nut, and there we go. Just to make the job a bit more easier when you're going to reassemble everything, I just take some white marker, erasable marker, and just try to loosely on the glass, not on the trim, on the glass, mark where the windshield wiper arms used to be. So when we're going to replace them, they don't misalign. Like I said, just generally marking on both sides, underneath. If you don't want to use a marker, you can also use tape, but you have to use a painter's tape, not something that has a lot of adhesive, such as duct tape. You can't use that at all. You have to use something that's really light on the adhesive, like indoor painter's tape. Now we have taken off both the decorative caps and the 13mm nuts, and we also marked the places where the windshield wiper arms meet the glass. Now we are just going to pull them off, but you can't pull them directly upwards. You have to pull them with their angle they're placed on. Then you have to use some force and pull it real off. It took me some time, but I got it off eventually. You have to be a bit firm, like I said. Then, just to make sure you don't do anything wrong, you place the passenger windshield wiper arm on the passenger side of the car. And then you take the driver's side and place it next to the driver's door, for example. That makes it a bit more easier to remember where you placed what. You could also just mark with a L or a R underneath them, but that's not directly the most prettiest thing to do. When it comes to the driver's side windshield wiper arm, we're going to detach it. We have to once again lift up the bonnet. So then again, we pull the lever that's underneath the footwell. Then we lift up the bonnet and we once again have to use some force. So don't be shy, do some pulling. You're made to handle it. There. Now we only have to remove the plastic covers. So since you can see there's the hose that goes for the washer fluid, you have to be careful. You don't want to take it off just in case you might damage something. So we have to carefully lift it and place it to the side. The cabinet filter is places directly in the middle of the car, as on the side of the car. So it won't be an issue when having the plastic covers to the side. So we have to carefully take off the rubber trim. And be careful, these cars are old, so they want to make sure everything stays as good in condition as possible while it lasts. As I said, be careful when taking off the rubber trim, you don't want to damage it. And then, just to make sure that I place it the correct way afterwards, I'm just gonna lift directly up and place it on the lower part of the engine bay. And then, you got these metal clips. Carefully pull up. They're here, and they're there. Once we have pulled those up, we can then start the tedious pulling. Now, we're on the side of the car. This is the same as the tray that I lifted the clips on the rubber mount. And we have to pull it from underneath this plastic part. Be careful. And there, on a bit more of a wider view, it will look something like this. Alright. Once again, the clip, pull up, then we have to pull this part, bow it slightly, not much, just slightly, and then we can take it off. The same thing is on the other side. It is possible to just, once you're taking off the one side, to make sure the windshield wiper bolts aren't blocking anything. Pull and pull. Pull and pull. The Norwegian way. Probably not. Then carefully move to the side. And there's yet another trim in front. That is a bit more easier to remove. Now, as you can see, I placed the first trim that you see when you just look at the car to the side, because the hose here for the windshield wiper fluid is a trouble, and I don't want to take it off in case I break something. But this is the last trim you have to take off, and it's hooked to a hole on the side of the car near the passenger side. But it's not as long that it reaches to the driver's side of the walls. So what I do is I carefully pull up the plastic parts that hides underneath the windshield, and then I make sure the bolts are not colliding in their holes, and then I pull towards me. Like I said, it's hooked underneath there, so you have to pull towards yourself. And then this one's free. Place it in front of the car. And as you can see here is the cabinet filter. We're at the end goal. Just have to replace it, and that's it. Now, congratulations! You can give yourself a pat on the back, but how to take off the cabinet filter is quite easy. It may be a bit unclear on the camera, but where my fingers are, there's a pull tab. You just carefully pull up, away from the hooks. The same is on the other side. So, and again, take a walk around the car. Make sure you don't step on anything you place there. And right there, you can see it. Just be careful and pull. Great. Now we go back to the passenger side. If you started on the passenger side, and you pull towards you. There you go. Now you just have to go to the new part and make sure to always check if they are the same one. You don't want to find out it afterwards that you got this wrong product. But this is exactly the same as the old one. What I'm going to do now is carefully slide in the new filter, making sure not to hit anything. It is a bit flexible, so you can flex it a little bit, but you have to be careful. Plastic is plastic. It's not that well durable, especially if it's a bad quality one or just a cheap part. Then just making sure that everything is as close as it needs to be, and then adjust. Then take my hand and push down. When they hear a click, that means it's on. Don't have to push any harder. Pull the tab towards you and then just push down until you hear a click. And then congratulations, you finally replaced the cabin air filter. Now you have to do everything else in reverse. After you're done with attaching the new cabin filter, is to look down there. This is a nozzle that's connected like a drain to the blower, and there's a hole on this side, and you can just carefully open it and pull all the dead debris outside, just making sure that while you're underneath there you've just done as much as possible. This is the first part to place, the secondary layer of plastic trim. This part goes on the passenger side. There's a large hole that is visible to see from where I'm standing right now, and you just place it in there first. Then place it back, making sure that this part goes underneath, but that part stays on top of the windshield, just like it's seen there. The same goes with that one. Those are supposed to stay on the upper side. This part is supposed to stay on the other side. So before I just place underneath, making sure that the bolt for the windshield wiper arm for the passenger side goes through the hole and then place down. There, nothing more to do about that. Then we take the first trim we took off, and we have to place it inside here first. Frenchy. Place it in. Just place it kind of in place, and then we have to make sure everything gets respectable places, like on the sides and on the metal tray with the clips. Take your time, don't rush it. Now all that's left is making sure everything is seated as supposed to be, and then reattach the plastic trim and the wiper arms. So just gonna place it upon the lip here and just press from one side, go over to the other place. It will on itself seat itself perfectly if you just start from one side and go towards the other side. Don't start in the middle. And there we go. Now I can take the driver's side windshield arm, place it in its mount, and it's time to kind of recalibrate these back to place where it's supposed to be, so that we get the correct place for everything. The passenger side again, lift up, place it onto the bolt, push down, making sure they're close enough to the markings that we made, and then we attach the 13mm bolt, or a nut rather. And only snug, or a bit tight, but you don't want to break these. It's a bit of an expensive thing to replace. And now that we have done everything, you just take the caps, making sure the tab is with the open part, and you just push it back on. And congratulations! You can close the bonnet